Perfect.
Okay, so what we're going to look at, we're going to combine like we did Friday with the distributive property. So it should be, I think it should be relatively pretty good. John, you want to turn that light on?
Yeah, I was getting it. Smart card.
It would, a deer would destroy a smart car.
Yes, that's why I said buy my smart card.
Yeah. Okay, so these are notes number 6, I believe. Is that right? 6 or 7? 7. Okay. Number 7. Okay, so like I've said, almost every day this semester so far, I'm going to be checking that you have these notes all completed before the test, which will be applied in a week or so, a couple weeks maybe. All the notes we've done for this section, you should be keeping in a folder. You should be keeping somewhere. I don't care. You can keep them up in that closet if you want to, or you can just keep them in your locker. But I'm going to be checking that every note page for this section is completed. Okay, and that's going to be easy points. That's going to literally be. Do what? This is 6. Okay, sorry, this is 6. You're fine. You probably did you actually write down? Good. Good, I'm glad. So, just keep track of these notes. That is not asking too much. Okay? So, what we're looking at today is we are talking about the distributive property. So, look on the side here. We talked about the distributive property a little bit when we talked about properties. What that means, if I have a number times a quantity. So what I mean by a quantity is I'm adding or subtracting two things together. So if I'm taking something out front, a single term, A, and I am multiplying it by two things added or subtracted in parentheses, I take the A and I multiply it by each thing on the inside. Yes?
Okay, go ahead and answer number 1.
Do it. Just a second. I want to look over it. So what I'm going to do, if I take my A and multiply it by the B and the C, it's AB plus AC. You keep a plus there. Okay? So let's go ahead and look at 1. As I look at 1, for the most part, you guys should get this pretty well. I think this is kind of review for you guys. We're going to get tricky ones on the bottom. But for this top section, I think it should go pretty well. So 7 times x plus 4. Distribute the 7. I'm going to get what, Colton?
You're going to get 7x plus 28.
7x plus 28. You take that 7 and you distribute it or multiply to everything in the parentheses. Now, if you would have 3 things, you would do the same thing. 7 times x plus 7 times 4. 7x plus 28. Okay, let's look at a couple of these. Let's look at number 3. A negative 4, cut it out, whoever's doing that. Negative 4 times y plus 3. You're going to take the negative 4 and distribute it or multiply it by everything that's in the parentheses. Preston? Guys, I'm in the middle of teaching. Please cut it out. I don't have one, sorry. What is it, Preston? Negative 4y minus 12. Be careful with the negative. Negative 4 times y is negative 4y. Negative 4 times positive 3 is a negative 12. Okay, let's look at 5. I look at 5 real quick. There's a negative times y minus 9. Now, I don't see a number out front. So what number is really out there? 1. So there is understood to be a negative 1 out front. So if that helps you, if it helps you to put that 1 to think, okay, I'm distributing the negative 1, that's fine. So I take the negative 1 and I distribute it. Multiply it by each thing on the inside. Basically, multiplying or dividing by a negative does what? Multiplying or dividing by a negative 1 just does what with the signs? Switch it. So negative 1 times y is what?
1y.
Negative 1 times y. Negative 1y or negative y. And then negative 1 times negative 9. Positive 9. Okay. Let's look at 11. Any questions so far? Do it.
We're change it to positive 1.
Yep. Negative 5 times negative 2. Yep. Okay. If we look at 6 real quick. Actually, let's look at 7. It's a little trickier. Let's look at 7 real quick. Okay, I have that negative 4 out front, and I need to distribute it. So if I distribute the negative 4, be careful with your negatives. If you're not good with them, use a calculator. Negative 4 times negative y. Negative times a negative is a positive.
Positive 4w. Negative 4 times negative 10. Positive 40. Let's look at 11. Now, instead of having a number out front, a constant, I have an x, the variable. You do the same thing. So I'm going to take x and distribute it. What is x times y?
XY.
Okay. And what is x times 4? 4x. Yep, you normally put your number first, so 4x. Now I would take off. If you put x4, I would take off. You have to put 4x, 4 in front.
Points?
Yes, you have to put the number first before the x. Yeah, I would take off half your paper. I rip it in half. Okay, let's look at 13. Okay, 6a times b plus 2c. You do the same thing. Just because there's an extra variable, 6a, do the same thing. What is 6a times b? 6ab. Don't make this harder than it is. And what is 6a times 2c? Plus 12 AC. Just go alphabetical order. AC. So 6 times 2 is 12, and then a times c is AC. So 12 AC. Okay, let's look at 14. Like I said, if there's 3 terms, you do the same thing. You take the 2 and distribute it to 3 terms. 2 times x. 2 times negative y. 2 times negative y. Negative 2y. Check your negatives. I know it's not a huge deal, but it is wrong. 2 times 8. Plus 16. So if you have 3, you do the same thing. Okay, let's look at 15 real quick. Okay, I'm taking my x and I'm distributing it. X times 2y. 2xy. Put it in alphabetical order. X comes before y. 2xy. X times negative 5z. Negative 5xz. And then x times 1 plus x. Just 1x or just x. So if you have 3, if you have a trinomial in parentheses, you do it the same way. Now, fractions. This is what I'm going to tell you. Do not freak out. 50% of you will quit. Like if you have some like 16, 17, or 18 on your homework, you just won't even tip them because they're fractions. Get over it. Plug it in your calculator. Let me show you how to do it. So as I look at 16, I am distributing the 1/4. Okay, so everyone get your calculator out. This is why I ask you to get your calculator so I can show you how to do fractions. If you know how to do them, great. If not, pay attention so I can show you how to do them. It takes an extra 30 seconds. You all can do it. Just because you see a fraction doesn't mean that you can't do it. So I have 1/4 times 8x. Okay, so put parentheses. And I want to put the fraction 1/4. There's a couple ways to do it. I always just do it this way. If you have a different way, that's fine if it works. What's the fraction bar represent? Which operation? So I can put 1 divided by 4. So to put the fraction 1/4, put parentheses, 1 divided by 4, and it will look like that. Any questions on that? So everyone do this so I can make sure you can do this because there'll be some on the homework. I'm multiplying 1/4 times what? 8. Now I'm just going to do the 8 because the x I'll just put down on the paper. So 1/4 times 8 is 2. So 2x. Any questions on that? Now I have to take 1/4, so parenthesis 1 divided by 4, times negative 4. Now when you do the negative, you have to use the symbol down here, the negative in parentheses, otherwise it's subtraction, times negative 4. So it should look like this, so make sure your calculator screen looks like this. 1/4 times negative 4, which is negative 1. So minus 1, and that's your answer. Just because you see a fraction, do not freak out. Just plug it in your calculator. Okay? Any questions on that? Okay, let's look at 17. I want to do another one with fraction. 1/6 times 3/5. So in your calculator, put parentheses. So 1/6 times 3/5, parenthesis. How do I do fraction? I just said it. 1 divided by 6. So there's 1/6. I'm trying to get it in here. There's 1/6. Okay. Parenthesis 1 divided by 6 times 3/5. Parenthesis 3 divided by 5. 0.1. Now, this one gives it to you as a decimal. I want it written as a fraction. So, to go from a decimal to a fraction, how do I do that? Where's it at?
Right there, right there.
Yeah. Does it work?
Yeah.
Okay, you can do it that way. 0.1. How do I go from a decimal to a fraction? I know how to do it. Oh, right here. So, right here. If you do it like this and you get 0.1, so it was 1/6 times 3/5. And I got 0.1. I want it written as a fraction always. This is how you get a decimal to a fraction right here. Press the second button, and you're looking for the PRB. It says F to D, and it has an arrow. That's fraction to decimal. So if you press it, that was second. 1/10.
So 1/10. So your answer is 1/10 x.
Or you can use the fraction symbol. I always just do division, but either way. Okay. Now, 1/6 times 18. Try that in your calculator. Parenthesis, 1 divided by 6 times 18. 3. So plus 3. Just because it's a fraction, you can still do it. Just plug it in your calculator. Let me look at one more fractional one with you. 1/8 times
4/5 x minus 24. Distribute the negative 1/8. So put parentheses. So clear parentheses. Where do I put the negative at? In front of it. It doesn't matter if you put it with the 1 or the 8. I just put it with the 1. So negative 1 divided by 8. So there's your fraction. Negative 1/8 times 4/5. So negative 1/8 times 4/5. Now, if it gives it to you as a decimal, we know how to convert it. Yep, it gives it to me as a decimal, negative 0.1. So to get it as a fraction, press the second button right here, and then the PRB, which has F to D. So second, that button, it says I want the answer to go from a decimal to a fraction. Press enter, and that is a negative 1/10. Or if you use the fraction button, if you've been taught that way, it'll already do it. So negative 1/10 x. And then take negative 1/8 times negative 24. So negative 1/8 times negative 24, which is what? Positive 3. So plus 3. Okay? So just because you have a fraction, don't stress out about it. Plug it in your calculator. It takes you an extra 30 seconds. No, it's not 3. What did I do wrong? Yeah, it's 3. They have the wrong answer. Okay. Any questions on those? Okay. So, let me get you. You can get started on the homework. You can pass these out for me, please. You can do 1 through 10 on the homework.
Mr. Keller,